Hey everybody, Andrew Reynolds from FindYourFuels.com here to answer more of your questions. And today we're just actually going to talk a little bit more abstract about a problem. I couldn't quite find the right way to make a question around this, but the basic concept is, how do we correct collar blindness? Now this is obviously a corny statement just about the war between blue collar and white collar, but after some recent consulting and seeing this again firsthand, I thought it might be worthwhile to put out a video about this to help you if you're dealing with it. Now many times the reason that this is brought up is because you might be on more of the white collar version of things where there's some animosity coming from your production crew. But also there's some frustration, obviously, on the other side of the blue collar, not understanding what the other side really kinds of brings to the table. And I experienced this myself. Back when I had an hourly job, I was working some corporate sales, and I had a pretty good relationship with the other folks in the building who handled more of the production area of things. And there was many times when it would come up and a little bit of frustration that, Andrew, what do? You go out and you have lunch with people and you go out to all these different dinners and business functions. We're back here working our butts off and you're out there just getting paid to go have lunch with people. Well, they didn't understand the stress that your brain undergoes when you're not only trying to hear out the prospect that you're trying to bring over to your company, trying to listen to their needs, while not coming across as a salesperson, while still trying to be casual, while still trying to think all the way in the back of your mind, okay, how can I take that phrase and utilize that later? How do I learn this from that? There's a huge amount of work going on in here. It's not seen, it's intangible. And that's the first thing I'd like to kind of bring up in this war between blue and white collars, that when you got production work, it's extremely tangible, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. Many times we might not understand why a business CEO might make millions of dollars, but we can more readily understand why a quarterback or a star basketball player might make millions. We can see what they do, and we can clearly see that we can't do that. And the intuition and the education and the practical application of that knowledge towards profitable ends is all behind the scenes. It's all up here. So for people who are from a more production standpoint, and thank heavens for them, they don't really recognize what's happening up here and what happened, the little nuances of interaction as you're dealing with a client, as you're dealing with a customer, as you're dealing with a future person that's going to be working with you. There's a lot going on in the back room that you just don't get to see. Now, the good news for the production side is it's very easy to make a case for what you bring to the table. On the bad side, being a more tangible application of your talents, it's just market-based pricing. Let's say you come out with a product and it's the best thing that's ever hit the market. People are loving it. They're buying millions of them. Honestly, when there's blood in the water, other sharks will come. And you see this many times with brand name versus generic products. There's a reality about business that if you're doing something well, someone else will try to ride that wave. They'll try to gain your customer base. The more tangible your product is, the easier it is to reproduce. And as frustrating as it is to feel on the employee side, you're basically in kind of a big box store reality, where you're not the only one doing what you're doing. It's easy to see what it is, and if someone else can do that for better, cheaper, or even maybe just a little bit cheaper, now there's competition, and the price goes down to basically right where the market allows, where it's at least affordable enough to produce, and it's at least profitable enough to do again. That's the problem with more blue-collar work. It needs to be done, and thank heavens for those people. Honestly, I do appreciate the work you do. The brilliance you bring to tangible things puts me to shame, honestly. However, realize why that complaint might come in that more corporate or more office jobs might pay a little bit more, or at least you don't understand the value they're bringing to you, the worker. Realize the more tangible your job is, the more your pay is tied to the market. And that's the danger that you face. Now, taking all that knowledge and flipping it over to the more quote-unquote white-collar or office jobs, it is a lot more intangible. They're looking at numbers, they're looking at theories, they're looking at marketing prospects, different ways of approaching the business. How do we say this? How do we do that? How's the effectiveness of the production? Are there efficiencies that we can improve upon? It sounds to production workers like a lot of There's a lot of words that they'd say that I can't repeat, but just a lot of hocus pocus. It's all just a bunch of people who dress nice, never have to break a nail, and they just sit in the back room and talk. Being a much more intangible reality, it's harder for more production-minded people to wrap their minds around that. Not that they don't have an intelligence in that way, but all of us, it's difficult to see. Blue collar or white collar, it takes a specific kind of lens to understand the value that office administrative work does. But not only looking at markets and seeing where the industry is heading so that all the things that production does are lined up with that and make sure that your jobs are secure. Looking at costs, making sure that as much as we'd like to give benefits out to everybody, there are certain thresholds to where if we give too much, we actually have to close the doors. And if you would really want 3 months worth of highly increased pay and benefits, but at the end of that time, the company closes down because they gave out too much more than the competition is giving their people, is that really a help to you? And that in itself is the difficulty as well, because sometimes we can make emotional decisions, and I talk with people all the time, you can see that they really feel this. You get almost kind of a feeling of frustration where it's like, let the world burn down. We're getting taken advantage of, and it's us versus them. Why don't we get our piece, and whatever happens, happens, because I can find a job elsewhere. And you see on both sides where the rift starts building, where the animosity starts building, where the quote-unquote blue collar looks at administration and says, I don't understand what you do. And the reverse comes back saying, I don't understand how you don't get this. We can only pay you so much. We can only make so much benefits. We've got 5 or 6 other companies wanting the same customers that are making your job possible, and we're trying to stay ahead of the game. We're for you. We know, and hopefully we know that we don't have a job ourselves without you. And that is the phrase that if you can actually build into your culture, I need you. I don't have a job without you. For the blue collar, they can look at the administration, the office workers, and say, thank you for preparing the way. Thank you for paving the road. Thank you for creating the need for me to even be here. I exist as a job, as a career, because you have prepared it for me. And from the office standpoint, to realize that all the best plans in the world make no difference if it's not accompanied by action. It's easy to see in theory, but we need to put it into practice. That no matter what side of the plant you go into, there's appreciation, regular, not only spoken appreciation, but acts of appreciation, a culture of appreciation. And one of the easiest ways to do that is remember what we're all here for. We're not only here for our jobs, we're here for our customers. Have something that pulls you together. Because honestly, the energy expended towards just kind of creating cultures of togetherness is exhausting. It's much more efficient to just have something that you're all agreed upon and going towards. That way you're more naturally pulled together, but that's another time and another podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave any questions or comments below. And as always, we appreciate all of you who are subscribing, leaving comments, leaving questions. It validates what we do and lets us know we're being of help. We'll see you next time. Have a great and productive week.